If you're anything like me, I am always on the lookout for gear that will help me shoot more stable handheld footage for longer periods of time without getting absolutely exhausted. I mean, let's be fair, I do not have the strongest arms. For years now, I've been hand-holding my cameras with no support while wondering if there is a better way. Well, for the past year, I've been testing out this Cinesaddle, and it might change everything. So in this video, we're going to dive into what makes the Cinesaddle such a joy to work with, what its shortcomings are, who I think should invest in a Cinesaddle, and whether or not it's become my main camera support on documentary shoots in 2024. Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name is Austin Meyer. I am a documentary filmmaker, cinematographer, and National Geographic Explorer based in the San Francisco Bay Area. On this channel, I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. This video is not sponsored. I purchased the Cinesaddle with my own money, and the company who makes Cinesaddle has no idea I am making this video. When it comes to handheld shooting, a lot of cinematographers out there like to shoot on a shoulder rig. However, that hasn't really worked for me. As someone who is left-eyed, when I use a shoulder rig, the eyepiece has to come across my whole face so that I can see, and I really don't like having my face blocked. I feel like it distances me from the people I'm filming. I can't make eye contact with them as easily, and it just feels like I'm behind a wall. I also haven't gone the direction of a shoulder rig because honestly, it's expensive. And even when I start to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out what I need to buy to get my FX6 rig into shoulder position, I get overwhelmed pretty quickly. So at this point in my career, I am a below the shoulder handheld shooter. Now, a couple years ago, what I started to see was photos of other DPs carrying around this beanbag looking thing. And I was intrigued. I wondered, why are all these top documentary cinematographers carrying around this beanbag when they likely have access to way fancier equipment? Well, back in March of 2023, I posed that question to the Emmy Award-winning cinematographer of Free Solo, Claire Popkin, and he sent me this message. Hey man, I use it all the time, every doc job. I mean, it's great to put the camera on the ground or to shoot from chest level without having it bounce or have the profile of an easy rig. It's easy to go from shoulder mode to lower mode. I also will rest my right elbow on it when the camera is on my shoulder, so it gives extra stabilization and I can relax my arm muscles while still holding the camera steady. And for a job where I have to hike with the camera, it's great to rest it on. You should get one and just figure out how it works best for you. So, just over a year ago, I purchased a Cinesaddle, specifically the mini saddle, because it was a better size fit for my small FX6 rig, and have been figuring out how it works best for me ever since. Before I get into that, let me just define what this thing is. So the Cinesaddle, which is made by an Australian company called Cinekinetic, is a lightweight saddle-shaped bag filled with these tiny foam balls that push the sides of the bag tight up against the camera to hold it steady. Essentially, the foam balls absorb vibrations. The Cinesaddle is lightweight, conforms to the shape of whatever is placed against it, and it comes with a strap that can be draped over your shoulder. And yeah, when I first bought the Cinesaddle, I didn't really know how I was going to use it, but nowadays it comes on every documentary shoot I have. And here are a few ways that I use it. All right, so here is how I most often use the Cinesaddle on doc shoots. Usually I will be going about the day, camera in hand with the Cinesaddle behind me, kind of just over my shoulder, in my back. And you know, the Cinesaddle is very lightweight, so I can hardly feel it here. So I'll be going about my day, you know, maybe put the camera here if I need to get higher, swap it to a little bit of a low mode. And then at some point I might feel like I need a little extra support, want it to be more stable. What I'll do is I'll just flip around the Cinesaddle and then rest my camera right in this little groove here on the Cinesaddle. Just rest it here, usually still with my hand placed here, and then the camera I'll have kind of like dangling off the front so that I can use my left hand here to do some focus pulling. Now I'll have it like that, and what I'll typically do also is have the adjustment strap of the Cinesaddle for the height on the left side, so at any point I need to raise it up, I can be shooting like this and then quickly pull up and suddenly I'm a little bit higher. Okay, and so I'm gonna start recording here on the FX6 just so you can see the stability. So now I'm recording on the FX6 and you should be looking at this shot and you can see me. I'll zoom in on the camera there. So usually when you're zoomed in like this, you can get some jitters, and I can hold this for a long time right now. Could hold this for a long time because essentially like my arms are taking none of the weight right now. It's all on the bag. Like I could just even take my hands pretty much off the camera here. Just like that. Zoom back out here. And so that's the most typical use case on doc shoots, is just have it on my back, flip it around, camera adjustment strap on my left side so I can, bring it down like this and bring it up like that very quickly. And I can just cruise around all day like this and record anything I need to very simply and very smoothly. Let's also check out the, you can use it to pan as well. You can use it to pan and tilt. Again, just like the Cinesaddle's taking the weight. Here's a quick pan. And of course, I'm not saying that you couldn't do that with just a handheld, no Cinesaddle. You could obviously do a pan like this. And that will look pretty similar, but if you're shooting, 5, 7, 10 hours a day, that will get exhausting, and that's when it's nice to have a little extra support to go about your day. With this simple technique, I can smoothly and comfortably film a long scene. Last week I was filming an event at Stanford University and had to handhold a 20-minute scene of students presenting some of their work. For me, it was comfortable because the weight of the camera was distributed across my body thanks to the strap. I felt very fortunate to have the saddle because right next to me, my fellow camera operator was exhausted after trying to smoothly hand-hold his FX6 rig with no support for 20 minutes. And last May, I was filming mountain gorillas in the wild in Rwanda and was told that the location I was going into in the forest did not allow for a tripod. So I filmed handheld on the FX6 with a 70-200 lens for nearly 2 straight hours. There's no way I could have done that or gotten near the quality of shots if I did not have the saddle with me. It just would have been too exhausting and too jittery. That day of filming the gorillas was one of the first big tests for the Cinesaddle, and I even took a photo of it afterwards because I was like, I have to document this moment for whenever I make a video about this piece of gear in the future. And I think I also recorded a video right after I shot with it too. Just spent hours trekking into the forest and then filming with gorillas. Never have I handheld the FX6 with 70-200 for so long. It was like 2 hours straight. Thankfully I had the Cinesaddle, which helped a lot. All right, so for the second use case, it's essentially using it as a tripod on the ground or on any stable surface. I'm gonna have my editor Marcus here put in that clip that you've probably seen if you've been following the channel long enough here, because I use it all the time, and that is of me putting the Cinesaddle down next to the beach and just resting my camera on it. So that is another great use case, and especially this year when I've been filming a lot with animals who are very low to the ground, just putting the Cinesaddle on the ground and then just resting the camera on it is a great way if I have my tripod up here and I quickly need to adjust to go down to ground level, to go from tripod to the ground on the Cinesaddle. So again, let me just, very simple here, very simple. Take the camera, take the bag off, place the bag where you need it. I know I'm on a balcony here, so I'm gonna be very careful, but there you go. And now you can just get like your establishing shot, just like that. And again, that's just such an easy way to get a nice stable shot when you're on the go. And again, if you're on a dock shoot and you just have it, behind you on your back like that, so easy to just swing it across over your body, take it off, put it down like that, and then you have a nice tripod shot. Okay, now third use case, which came in pretty clutch last week on a dock shoot, is I'm usually working as a 1-2 person crew, like very small crews. And so the other day I had to do some OTF interviews. So just on the fly interviews. I didn't have my tripod with me. And I was both filming these kind of like man on the street type interviews while also, like, I was the cinematographer, but also doing the interviews. And we were standing up. So I would go up to people to do the interview, and because I didn't want to shoot low angle and like have the camera pointed up at them while we did the interview and then have my head off camera where they're looking at me, like the eye line would just be too off, like the camera would be too low, my eye line would just be too far above the camera. What I started to do was use the Cinesaddle for support on these OTF interviews. So I'd hold it here at about, chest level here. And what I would do is I would rest both my arms like that and almost kind of put this at shoulder level. And so now my eyes are at the same level as the camera. And now I could interview folks like this, and I could say, oh, tell me your name, where are you from? And they could look straight at me. My eye line is the same as the lens, and I could like pretty comfortably hold this for, 5-10 minutes of these OTF interviews. So this is kind of an interesting new way that I've started to use the Cinesaddle, because this particular project called for some of these OTF interviews. So those are some of the ways that I use the Cinesaddle while shooting, but there really are endless ways you might position it to just give your arms and your camera a little extra support. But the Cinesaddle is not perfect. First off, it's expensive, just about $400 for the original Cinesaddle size, $380 for the mini saddle, and $365 for the baby saddle. So it is an investment, and you'll definitely want to make sure it fits with your shooting style before you throw it in the online shopping cart. Another issue I've had with my saddle is that I wish there was more design consideration put on the strap. I feel like it could have been more padding, because it does feel like it just digs into my shoulder after a while. However, it does look like the new Series 2 saddles come with a comfy strap, so hopefully that helps. I just need to get one to try it out myself. And finally, the sizing of the saddle can be tricky. They aren't carried in a lot of camera stores, so it's challenging to get your hands on one and test it out before dropping the cash. And that goes for figuring out which size bag will fit your camera rig. When I purchased mine, I sent an inquiry to Cinekinetic asking which they recommended for a stripped down FX6, and they recommended the Mini, which has been great for me. But if you have a much bigger rig, then the original size might be better for you. Just know that if you have the full size, the saddle does increase your footprint and will require a good amount of extra space when packing for documentary travel. So who do I think the Cinesaddle is for, and who do I think should buy it? Well, I think the Cinesaddle is a great option for documentary DPs who like shooting handheld and who find themselves shooting in tight spaces or sensitive scenes where a lot of big fancy equipment can actually get in the way of the story you're trying to tell instead of supporting it. A lot of cinematographers will use an easy rig for similar use cases as the Cinesaddle, but based on the way I shoot and the types of settings I shoot in, I'm almost always trying to appear smaller in size and less intimidating to the people I'm filming. So it hasn't made sense for me to invest in an easy rig, which only seems to make people appear bigger, more intimidating, and seem like some sort of mechanical transformer. That's why I think it can be a great fit for someone who just likes a simpler and more minimalist approach to their kit. Other people it could be right for, people like me who don't have huge muscles and want to support their camera so they can not be exhausted at the end of the day. And also people who like a smooth handheld look, the kind of footage where you can feel the human touch behind the lens. There's that gentle movement, but it's gentle, it's smooth. So who shouldn't buy this? Well, if you're shooting exclusively on small mirrorless cameras, you might not need the extra weight-bearing support. I know for me, I was never interested in a piece of equipment like the Cinesaddle until I first purchased my cinema camera for the first time, which was the Sony FX6, and suddenly I was carrying around some more weight. Your personal height is also another consideration for the Cinesaddle. If you are very short, then using the Cinesaddle in kind of the chest to belly area might start putting the camera too far below your subject's eye level. So if you're someone who doesn't film from this range of your body already, you might want to hold off on the Cinesaddle. The Cinesaddle also probably isn't right for someone who is just starting to finance their own kit and buy gear for the first time, because this is not an essential. It's a nice to have once you get a sense of your personal shooting style. And lastly, if you don't like any jitters in your footage, this is not for you. The Cinesaddle does an amazing job with stabilization, but if you are a commercial shooter or want to shoot wildlife footage like Planet Earth, invest your money in a nice tripod first. Okay, so the Cinesaddle is not for everyone. If you're just starting to build your kit or only shoot with small mirrorless cameras which have internal stabilization, this might not be right for you. But if you've been shooting handheld footage for a while, use a heavier camera, or you're looking for a minimalist support option that allows you to shoot longer takes of smooth footage, then in my opinion, the Cinesaddle is a great investment that will be in your kit for a long time and retain its value. Now, the final question to answer here is whether or not the Cinesaddle has become my main support on doc shoots in 2024. And you may have gathered the answer by now, because the answer is yes. When I first got started on the Cinesaddle, I didn't really know how I would use it. But the more I have had it on shoots, the more use cases I have found for it. And now it comes with me on every one. I'm grateful to have such a light, small, and simple item that makes my job easier, less exhausting, all while improving my footage. That's it for this video. Check out the link in the description if you want to check out the Cinesaddle for yourself. And I'll see you next time. Until then, go out and tell some stories.